What is going on, surfers? My name is Crypto Amru. We got Crypto Hitman in the house as always. We are pleased to bring to you another project spotlight. This time, it's all about PulseChain. Of course, we know Surf launched on PulseChain. We're pleased to have the team of Emit Farms here with us, a new DeFi play that just launched about a month and a half ago on PulseChain. Welcome to the show, guys. We're going to kick it off with just some introductory questions about your background, and then we'll get into the ins and outs of the project, and we'll talk a little bit about the Surf and Emit Forums collaboration that's coming. But yeah, pleased to have you guys. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, your background in the space, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Thanks for having us up, guys. So my name's Kairos, and I've been building on PulseChain since about the first week PulseChain went live. I built an auto compounding protocol, and I've run that for the past couple years. And then just recently, last month, we launched the Emit protocol, kind of the same time that the PulseX farming rewards were going down. Kind of saw an opening for new farming protocol. So that's how this kind of came about. And yeah, now we've just mostly been doing collaborations, reaching out with projects and seeing how we can integrate and work with more people in the network. And yeah, appreciate you having us up.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. We'll dig into some questions around your previous project as well here in a minute. But DeFi Nation, if you don't mind introducing yourself as well. Great to hear about your background.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for having us on. Yeah, my name's Ben. That's my Twitter handle, and yeah, I've been working with Keros for I think almost 2.5, 3 years. Ever since PulseChain launched, I kind of discovered his first protocol, Impulse Finance (IMPLS), which is the auto compounding protocol, a fork of Psycho Finance from Avalanche Chain. I got really interested in it because I was doing a lot of farming, had a lot of LPs. In like PulseX, 9inch, and other dexes, and this other protocol he launched allowed you to auto compound your yield that you earned on your LPs and right into your LP. So I got really heavily in that, and then kind of became a team member on that. And then about a few months ago, he kind of started talking to me about the new project he wanted to launch, Emit Farms, which is more of his own yield farm. So I started teaming up with him on that. So a team member, and kind of heading up the product and outreach part of that from my marketing background. I got into crypto around 2016. Got into Bitcoin kind of by accident. It was around $600 at the time. Got into DeFi and altcoins around 2019. Before that, massive bull run we had last cycle. And yeah, my background also is in marketing. I used to work in the film studios in Los Angeles at Sony Pictures and Lionsgate in the film departments, marketing departments there. So kind of brought some of that experience to the crypto world and kind of working on these DeFi projects on PulseChain now. So
yeah, and I mean, one of the biggest things that has got TVL on networks is yield opportunities. And for people who aren't on PulseChain yet, or if you are here, essentially Richard Hart put out some tweets reducing the APR on the farms available on PulseX and kind of really getting a lot of the liquidity removed from PulseChain. A lot of people speculate, less liquidity, less APR, gets higher to pump, and less tokens to be dumped into the market. That's kind of the theory, but it is important for Emit Farms and Vox and some of these other opportunities that we talk to. Let's try to find a winner. Let's try to find where we can make APR. And also it's important for network because when users are trying to onboard to a network, they're either looking for big green candles on meme coins or utility projects, whatever the breakthrough is on the chain, or B, looking for passive income generation or APR incentives to put their capital there. And you guys are competing with, the likes of PancakeSwap on BSC or Curve on Ethereum or whatever it may be. So that's why we're interested in the young grassroots approach that is happening here on PulseChain and trying to talk to these DeFi products and trying to pick out a winner near the lows. And of course, it also helps that we have a Surf token now, so there is low-hanging fruit for collaborations and integrations, the APR for our own community as well.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I know Keros got interested in building his own farms for the Emit, because it was right after the time that RH, basically cut the emissions or the APRs on PulseX quite a. I think he cut it like by 90% or so on the INC emissions, and the yields got really. I mean, I used to be earning like 20-25% on like INCs and pairs like that, and that went below 1%, so it wasn't really profitable anymore. it didn't make up for impairment loss. So he got interested to build his own farms, and the APYs on Emit are now in the hundreds of percent. You can earn anywhere from double-digit percentages to 2, 3, 400% APR on multiple farms, and those include all the PulseX farms, or most of the core PulseX farm pairs, where you're earning like way higher than they were ever on PulseX before those emissions were cut. So
yeah. Crypto Armor, I don't know if you have any other questions, but I guess after your final questions, we can just have them share their screen and kind of give a product demo of what they got going on emit.farm, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah. Whenever I think about LP farming, why don't we back up for a bit so you can share your screen? That'd be great. For those who don't know, because we have a lot of, I'd say, newer sort of DeFi entrants or newer crypto users following the channel, why don't we just take a step back and explain, okay, what's farming, right? And then how do you guys do it maybe a little bit differently? What are some of the pros, the cons? So as I understand it, and you guys please feel free to correct me as you're the experts in this area, but farming is essentially when a project or protocol incentivizes users to add liquidity to a pair, to a chain, and does so by rewarding them in either the project's own native token or other tokens. And in doing so, you're able to sort of bring on, like Nick mentioned, new people into a chain, new users into a product or protocol, and sort of grow organically from there. So tell me, are you guys doing it any differently? Like, what's the innovation? Because the risk is always, all right, farming is going on, but the users are getting paid out. Sometimes, like you mentioned, very high percentage. Oh, it looks like we lost our friend here. Hopefully he comes back. How do you guys mitigate some of the inflationary concerns that you see with a lot of farms?
Sure. Yeah, I'll let Karos address some of that when he comes back on. But also, we have a single-side stake pool for the Emit token, which is the yield token that the farms are earning. And rather than just earning more of the same token, making it like more inflationary, you actually are earning eDai, so DAI stablecoin from Ethereum, and you're earning a rate about 112% APR right now. So any Emit that you farm or just buy on the market and put in that single side stake pool with no impairment loss is 112% APR in DAI stablecoins. So that's pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people take their DAI that they earn and they recompound using it to buy more Emit and then compound into that single side pool. So that's kind of one thing different that I don't think any other protocol that I know of is doing.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the main things when I was building this, because I'd done farming protocols in the past, and they all kind of work similar. Basically, like he was just saying, we create that inflation, and then people can put their different LP assets depending on the farm, and then earn their share of that inflation each day. So basically, with this one, it's like a hybrid of like a classic Master Chef farm, which is your classic like Master Chef deposit LP and earn your portion of the rewards. And then also it's like a reflection token where like usually the reflection, it reflects it back to the holders. But for this one, all the reflections go into the single-sided staking. So it's basically that same dynamic of you earn the reflection token, but for this one, you have to be deposited in the single-sided staking. So it makes kind of an interesting dynamic with the two things at play there. And I think it promotes like a strong, like we were just talking about the LP webbing. And that's one of my favorite things about the farms. It's like, because each time you add a farm, and especially if you don't have like we're not printing super hard, like there's not a ton of sell pressure. So like it has enough time that we can grow, LPs with all these different projects, and it just really strengthens the project that way. And yeah, I think having this single sided so that they can deposit and earn those stables, because usually that's like, you earn the reward token, then you deposit that in single sided and you're earning more of that reward token. And it gets to a point where you're like, all right, well, I'm going to sell this because I already have a bunch of it and there's nothing else to do with it. So those are my two things that I was trying to address when I came up with the single sided earns eDai, and then also the DAO voting was just kind of two little things we added on to the farming to just kind of, because with each new product, like I was like, I want to do it better than any a farm that I've done in the past, so that was really the two things that I think made the difference. And then as far as ongoing, like keeping the farm alive, because a lot of projects, it's like, the project comes out, the hype is done, the project goes down, and it tanks forever. So to offset that, I was like, well, the main focus after, we have a really good launch, it was a nice launch. Like now we have, real users. I want to put all the focus on now doing these collaborations. So like all the users that are in the community, they had a good launch, they're like enjoying the farming. And then also we're like partnering with, solid projects really. That's a lot of the people we partnered with, or I consider, builders that haven't really got recognized yet. Some of them have got recognized though, also as well. We've done some bigger projects, but I kind of treat that like a spotlight too, and that's good because we got a pretty, active community. We're not huge, but like the dudes that use it like it, and like they're real users.
Yeah, and I can run through some of those collab partners right now. So each category, we have the core category with the Emit pairs. Then we have the PulseX farm pairs, which are like the pairs from Richard Hart's PulseX V2. Then we have Pump Tires. That's not a collab. That's just we put that up for any meme coin pairs that we launch. That were initially launched on Pump Tires that we do farms for. Then we have a category for community tokens, which is where we'll probably have the Surf token be paired with Emit and be right in that category.
One of you guys should share your screen and kind of run it through so people can kind of get a visual of the product, the platform, the APRs, and kind of how it works.
Yeah, Karos, can you bring that up? Yeah. And then IMPLS is the auto compound protocol that the first protocol Karos launched. I think he's had about 4 or 5 protocols on PulseChain, but that was the first one. Then we have a category for Vouch, which is a really interesting VPS farm that's no impairment loss on staking your Pulse at a high rate. We'll talk about that. Then we have Pulse.
Right now, Karos, I'm just seeing a black screen, so I don't know if you need to switch your screen share settings, kind of like we did before the recording, unless you guys can see the screen and just I can't.
It's showing up on mine, but I can try and stop share and then reshare. Let me try that.
Yeah, I only see black too. Yeah. Then we have a Pulse Bitcoin ASIC farm category. Have 3 farms in there for those community tokens. That was a community takeover that's got a lot of holders. Function Island. We have a category for their partner. Hocus Pocus is a cloud partner, and then Vox Finance you had mentioned. That's another great yield farm that is really under-recognized, and Nexion farms. So those are all the collab partners. And I did want to mention about the what also makes different. The yield token Emit is a tax token. It has a 5% buy and sell tax. So most people, if there are people that are like basically just taking their yield and straight selling it, they're going to get hit with that 5% sell tax every time. And then that goes back to 1% is a buy and burn for Emit. And then 4% of that tax goes to directly to the single side stakers and the DAI rewards. So that kind of incentivizes people to hold their Emit, to either pair it in the farm or put in the single side stake pool to earn their revenue share, rather than just selling constantly and getting taxed for it. So
okay, great. And actually, that sort of touches on one of my follow-up questions around the sustainability of the farm, right? And you mentioned that the users are getting paid in eDAI, right? And so my question, I believe you just answered, but I want to reiterate for folks. The eDAI comes, because the question should everyone's mind should then be, okay, where does the eDAI come from, right? Well, in this case, the eDAI comes from the token tax, if I'm not mistaken. You said, I think 4% of the tax that is paid, the transactional tax, that's used to purchase the eDAI, and then pay out to the farmers. Is that am I stating that correctly, or am I missing something there?
Yeah, exactly. So the 4% of that 5% tax is for the DAI rewards to the single side pool. So they basically, if you're buying, let's say you're buying or you're selling with PLS, then that PLS gets converted to DAI, and then that DAI gets sent directly to the pool, and then the other 1% is a buy and burn of the Emit token. And then you can see on the main page how much has been bought. How much has been burned of the token. Do you have that right there? Over 38,000 tokens. I think we're at a price of around 50 cents right now. So that's a pretty good amount. And a lot of that actually Karos just sent to the burn address himself, because he had, a lot of tokens kind of, I'll let you explain kind of the reasoning. And
with the initial launch, well, basically, when we did the initial liquidity, and there was like 30,000 tokens that were basically in the DAO treasury, and we were going to hold them long term. And that first week, I was like, well, let's just burn all these. You know what I mean? Just as it's a brand new protocol. Like, people have farmed, and everyone that's got their positions has earned their positions. So we don't even need these extra tokens. So we just ended up having a huge burn that first week. And that was that 38,000. But I think as far as like because I know you was just asking like the long-term feasibility of the farms, and that's also like the question that I have. So far, it's these projects kind of boil down to if you can keep them growing or what you can turn them into. I think having the token tax like that does add. It's almost like a way that you can de-risk. So if you're a single-sided staking and someone does do a bunch of sells, like, you're going to be receiving 4% of the total trade volume each day into the single-sided. So it's kind of just a neat way that people can de-risk and don't need to dump. And also, when you single-sided stake, you're minted via Emit, which is the token that can be used for the DAO voting. So I think those two things kind of add to the longevity of the projects. And
yeah, we did have a farm for it was Emit with vEmit, which is vEmit is the liquid staking token you receive back when you stake in the single side pool. So it's kind of, I had told Karos, hey, it would be really cool to just like the VPLS one that we'll cover, to have like those two tokens because in a farm together, because there's no impairment loss between them really. And we did have that up for a little while. It was a really high APR, I think like 200-300%, almost like single-sided staking your Emit. But there was some kind of issue in the background. Karos has to correct, and then he's going to probably relaunch that farm. And yeah, so that's about the tokens that he burned at launch. 38,000 tokens is about 30% of the total token supply, current supply. So
these APRs aren't really being generated by inflation of Emit itself, but actually by the token tax system that's going on in the background for the most part. Or is that correct or incorrect?
Yeah.
There's no inflation on that.
The single-sided has that 4% tax, just like a reflection token. So that 100% APR is actually, like, the way I like to think about it is 5% of the total volume each day, 4% of that is going into the single-sided staking, and that's what creates that APR. And then all the other APRs are based on the token inflation. So I think it's like 450 new Emit are being created each day, and that's what we have, spread among all the LPs. Like, obviously you can see that Emit is the most heavily rewarded as far as allocation wise. And but yeah, the single-sided is separate as far as how the APRs are generated.
Yeah, that is interesting because the reflection, obviously, Surf has a token tax as well, and it's given our DAO like $45,000. It's given the no expectation wallet $25,000. It's given holders like 3% of the total supply recycled to them. It's burnt a bunch of tokens. So I think it is something that can help sustain these farm type projects, especially with it reducing the amount of Emit that needs to be inflating the supply in order to incentivize people enough to use your platform. So that's good to see, something a little new as well there, along with the DAO, and hopefully those additional utilities can make it so this farming product can really keep going and hit the mainstream. And even if it doesn't become the biggest option on PulseChain, can still be successful because you're not relying purely on inflation of the token itself.
Yeah, and Karos created a volume bot to basically like do buys and sells to keep the price kind of like in the same like neutral, I guess you'd say. But that creates volume, which creates tax, it collects tax, and then that feeds directly to the single side pool. So on days that there's not as much like buy or sell pressure to create the rewards to that pool, there's the volume bot that's still acting in the background to kind of like keep that APR high up in the 100% range that it is now. So
yeah, I wanted to point out something really quick that jumped out at me as well. I noticed that your total supply, I guess it was like 100,000 approximately tokens before. Now it's less due to the burn. Is that right? And then you're only emitting 450 a day. So relative to the total supply, it's very little inflation in my view, especially when you consider the buyback and burn function. I think maybe you guys have come up with something that could be long-term sustainable.
Yeah, that's a super low. Yeah, the 480 tokens emitted a day, that's a super low inflation rate. It's only about $220, I think, a day that's in emit. That's, there's some of these farms that are, creating like thousands of dollars a day, tens of thousands sometimes. Well, PulseX was much higher than that. But for this being kind of a lower TVL farm. It's a very low inflation rate. So I think that definitely helps. And, a lot of people are taking their rewards and they're repairing them, or they're putting them right in that single side pool to reduce sell pressure. So we've kind of stayed right in the kind of price range we are. I mean, we dipped below when PulseChain dipped a few weeks back, but then we were right back to where the kind of range that we've kind of been in. So we haven't been like a down forever inflation reward token. We've been kind of like a steady token.
And I guess my only last question, and then I'll let Crypto Amaru kind of sum it up, and we can get moving on this video as well. Is what is kind of the security risk? People are always nervous about trying new products, UX, UI. What rights does their wallet give up if they connect to your platform? Like, what are the security concerns, and what are the security mitigations for our community? That's like, all right, these APRs look good. Emit's market cap is tiny. They're going to be supporting Surf. Let's get some APR here with two undervalued assets. What security risk are they taking by connecting their wallet and doing these LPs?
One thing too, I'll add real quick on that topic is that I think it's smart whether you are interacting with a farming protocol, whether you're doing swaps, you're using Uniswap or what have you. It is smart to have kind of a separate wallet or wallets that you're doing this DeFi stuff with. Don't have your portfolio, all your money basically, and whatever you got your money in. Don't have that in the same wallet that you're doing DeFi stuff with. Create a separate wallet. Bring money over into that wallet, right? And better yet, make sure that wallet has a separate seed phrase entirely from the wallet you're holding your stuff in. Ideally, would be a cold storage, is where you hold your stuff and you can move it over to like a brand new MetaMask to play around on DeFi. Whether that's farming or swapping or whatever it is, have a separate wallet that you're doing this stuff with, just out of abundance of caution, right? Chances are you'll be fine with doing something like this. He mentioned it's a basic contract that's being used time and again, but that's good, just operational security to keep in mind.
Yeah, and the Master Chef, Pancake Swap Master Chef's contract is pretty battle tested. And just like with PulseX or any of the other, farms that use the same contract, you retain your keys. When you deposit to the farms, only your keys can access those funds to withdraw from. Like the platform doesn't have any control over users' funds or anything. It's all decentralized, and
Yeah, good. All right, so why don't we switch gears? Anything you guys want to highlight on this front page for us? I know I already pointed out the total supply, which jumped out at me, but anything you guys want to highlight here? Be great to run through it if you can.
Yeah, like you said, the market cap is really low. We're just around $42,000 market cap. So, you don't need the token to go to a multi-billion-dollar market cap to get like a 10x or a 50x. With 100x is only in the single million or range. So it's it's one of those like really like early opportunities, I feel, for a token and for a protocol to get in at a low market cap valuation. And then, if we can just kind of run through some of the APRs on the different farm pairs that we do have on there, and we can talk about where we're going to put the Surf token pair once we get to that category. And
yeah, Kairos or anyone really, you guys want to highlight anything that's like notable here?
Yeah, and that's at 173% Emit paired with PLS. And basically the way it works is because it has about 12,000 in that pool. If some shark came along and put another 12,000 in, then that would just cut that APR in half. So they do get lowered as more deposits are made, but also as the price of Emit rises, that APR goes up as well. So they can kind of like stay at a healthy kind of APR if we get like that.
And these are paying better APRs than even when the farms were good over on PulseX. So it's interesting for people who don't want to really take the risk on Emit itself. They can use their core coins to earn Emit via these dynamic APRs over here on these farms.
Yeah, like INC and PLS averaging between 30 to 50% APR. That they were never that high on PulseX. I think the highest, in the 20% range. So those are just having those two tokens. Another thing I want to mention, there is a 1% deposit and 1% withdrawal fee for the farms. But if you have an emitter's NFT, Karis, you can go to the NFT page. Then you pay zero farming fees. So you don't pay the 1% deposit and withdrawal fees. You pay no fees. And currently the NFTs, I think about half of them have been minted. And they're only 1 million pulse each, so it's like $40 to have no fees for life on the platform, basically. So those are definitely worth picking up. Yeah, I have a bunch of them, and then you also get a multiplier on the airdrop whitelist. So one thing, Karos, I'll let you comment about the airdrop list. He's been running like an airdrop to everybody on the whitelist is getting like free tokens every single day from the collab partners that provide their tokens, or from Emit that's airdropped, and you get a multiplier, like a airdrop multiplier for the amount of engagement that you do, like either in the Telegram or on socials, like on X platform, retweeting and everything. So you're just getting like dripped like free tokens every day if you're on that airdrop list from the Telegram. So
very cool, very cool. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. If you could actually go back to the home real quick, I just wanted to ask a couple questions, or actually, excuse me, the farming page, whatever the page was. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah. So as you guys know, we're looking to put the surf token up on there, so people will be able to essentially add liquidity to the surf pair, as I take it, and earn that way. So talk people through that. Like, where's that going to be? How is that going to look? And how do people get started?
yeah, that'll be a community token, and then we'll be adding other tokens in there as we do more collabs, and we also have the pump tires. So right here you can earn on pump most, you can earn almost 60% APR on that token. We have dark token with Emit. We have top hat with most, which is about almost 80% APR on that token. So those are just the initial farms that we have from the pump tires launch tokens. And then let me see. Karis, do you want to go back up to the Emit pairs, and we'll just walk through some of those. So right now you can single side stake your Emit if you either buy it or off the market, or you farm it for 112%. We had talked about the Emit PLS 173%, and then you have the Emit dies pretty high, almost 300%. And then the other tokens with Emit are PulseX and INC. And then if you go to the next category, that's the PulseX cores. So on DAI PLS, that's 65%. The INC and PLSX ones we talked about. And then I think there's a few other cores. We have a Hex PLS farm, and that's 56% on that one. Then you can go past the two categories we already covered. IMPLS is the first protocol. Those are pretty high APRs, because we actually are going to add more pairs too with IMPLS, because we want to get the two platforms kind of integrated, where we'll have a lot of the farms on the IMPLS auto compound vaults. So if people want to just stick their LPs in the vaults and have them compound right into their LP, their rewards like earned back into the LP, and a bonus token, the IMPLS token on top of that as a reward. We'll be setting that up in the future. And then we did a partnership with Vouch. Vouch is Jexa. He was, I think, a co-founder of Liquid Loans. So we really like this category because the VPLS farm is basically like single side staking PLS. So how you get into that farm, you would go to vouch.run. That's where you single side stake your PLS for the validator rewards. It's like a pool, kind of like Rocket Pool, or like Lido Finance for like ETH single side staking. So they give you a liquid staking token in return for your PLS. So I think you're earning about 8% over there on your PLS, and then you take that VPLS. You can swap half back into PLS because they have a lot of liquidity. Then you deposit it into this farm for another 17%. So you're earning like the 17 plus the 8. So you're almost earning like 25% APR on single side staking your PLS if you don't want to have the impairment loss risks. And then we have Pulse Bitcoin ASIC pairs with Emit, PLSB, and Pulse Litecoin together at those are, the highest pair on that one is the 200% APR on ASIC and PLSX. And then, Karis, do you want to talk about the other collabs that you had arranged with Function Island and Hocus Pocus? Yeah, 300% APR if you have Vox and Incognito, which is a really good pair. I think Incognito rewards you in INC reflection rewards. Those are some good farms.
Yeah, really cool. I mean, it sounds like this platform has the code base of PancakeSwap, which we've been proponents of for a very long time and offers security. But also, you guys are very, small market cap. So yes, higher risk but higher upside potential. And at this market capitalization, I mean, the downside risk to zero is much more close than it is to 5 million, 10 million, 100 million when you're looking to try to get multiples on a farming token and a farming ecosystem. I like the additional utilities of the token tax to kind of fund some of the staking and incentivize holders to remain holding. And then also the utilization of the DAO and the NFTs to kind of reduce the amount of inflation that is needed for the farms in order to continue to get this product up and running.
Yeah, and I just want to mention a couple of the new categories that we're going to be working on getting up, over the next, I don't know, maybe month or a few months. We're kind of talking with some people in the PTGC UFO community to kind of launch a farm category for those tokens. We'll probably have like PTGC and UFO pair, and then Emit with PTGC, maybe some others. And then we're also wanting to do the same thing for the solid index tokens. So like SolidX, Access, No Fire, give some farm pairs for those. And then we may do one for 9-inch tokens as well, the 9-inch and BBC farm pairs. So there's just a kind of some future categories that we'll probably see.
Nice. Crypto Amaru, do you have anything you want to do to kind of sum up this initial kind of spotlight of this project and this platform? And then maybe we'll see some more short form content and hype videos and cross collaborations, or get these guys in the Friday Shill and Chill upon maybe Surf being added here. So for Surf holders, stay tuned, maybe get some APR out of it. And then also maybe get some undervalued gem here in Emit. It's sitting at like a $45,000 market cap. So a lot of upside potential there as well.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like this is it's a newer protocol, so understand the risk reward, but downside risk is minimal relative to the potential upside, in my view, because it's so early. And I think you guys have come up with a system that it looks to be sustainable, right? You're not just emitting, for lack of a better word, a ton of your native token. And giving out as rewards, right? It's really a lot of it's basically most of it, the bulk of it seems like it's coming through the token tax. So very clever setup you guys have. I also like the marketing strategy, right? You guys are going around PulseChain, going on shows like this, partnering up with other projects within PulseChain. That's sort of grassroots. It doesn't cost a lot to do marketing in the fashion you're doing it, and I think it's a way to build a genuine community. So good work there. I think a lot to like about it. Definitely looking forward to working with you guys in the near future and getting that surf farming pair up there with your native token. I think it's going to be awesome for our community to have the opportunity to do that, and hopefully continue to bring new people into PulseChain, right? Who may be curious about farming and be curious about PulseChain. Okay, here's that little added incentive for them to finally bridge some funds over and participate in a really cool DeFi protocol and make some money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think people don't realize the opportunities that are on PulseChain. They don't realize like the DeFi opportunities, the protocols, and the farming opportunities with yield that you can make. Just because they see the price down, they see it below SAC, and everything else kind of just from like where we are in the market right now and the price performance. But I'm personally, I'm all in on DeFi and PulseChain. I have majority of my portfolio in LPs and farming, and I'm making more than I ever made in the corporate world. When I used to work at the film studios, like on salary, just from farming, and it gives me a lot of opportunity to just do whatever I want with my time. So I think that could be something that could really bridge people over to PulseChain from other networks like Solana and Base and other chains, when they learn about some of these yield opportunities that they can actually make really healthy amount with their tokens that they already have. And so that's really good thing to kind of spread the awareness of.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think DeFi on PulseChain is a really underappreciated and an unknown story that's happening within crypto. Like, I'm relatively new to PulseChain. Nick's been an OG for a long time, but when he sort of helped convince our DAO, the Surf Token DAO, to launch on PulseChain, we were ultimately ingratiated into this community and saw all the amazing stuff happening in the DeFi realm that I was just completely unaware of. And I think a lot of it comes down to the really innovative way that these token taxes are being implemented. You're not seeing this sort of thing happen on other chains, to my knowledge, where the token taxes are then used for 4 or 5 other sort of beneficial activities to further that particular token's ecosystem, with the buyback and burns, for example, auto LP ads. Maybe it's happening on other chains, and I just don't know about it, but I've not seen it. I've been in this space a long time. So I do think DeFi on PulseChain is very underappreciated and unknown, but I think that's going to be changing here this cycle.
Yeah, so like that's one reason I got interested in working Karis, almost 3 years ago, because he built the first auto compounder. I guess on other networks you call them yield yield optimizers or auto compounders, and I was using them a lot, like in previous cycles on BSC. BSC had like Beefy Finance and other yield aggregators like that, and I was earning a lot of yield doing that. And then when I discovered Impulse, IMPLS Finance, that was the only one that I knew of on PulseChain. I think it still is the only one that actually auto compounds your LPs. And that protocol, maybe we can do a future spotlight. It's very undervalued as well, and we're going to integrate the two platforms together to kind of bring awareness back to it. But yeah, it's just he's built some really cool things that like are new to PulseChain, and I think he has some mining dApps as well. That he's got a community that kind of follows him from the things that he launches, and that's how we got over 600 people in the new Telegram like very quickly in the first few weeks. So we just want to keep growing that and growing the community, and yeah.
Love it, guys. We'll keep up the great work. It's been a real pleasure having you on. We will release some information, I think, in the near future about the Surf and Emit farm that should be going live on your site in the nearest future. And like Nick said, we'll have you on some Shill and Chill. So let's just stay close and stay collaborating. Any final thoughts, Hitman, before we jump off here?
No, I think I kind of presented my case for Emit and what the opportunity is here. And of course, we'll see how deep in the trenches I get with it moving forward. Maybe I have some short content and whatnot, especially if Surf token is added in here and the liquidity pair seems enticing as far as the APR that is available. I know that the Surf token itself is doing quite well here. So let's take a quick look. I think we're at a $2.5 or $3 million market cap.
And, I just bought some more, so just trying to push that baby back up to 3 million.
Yeah, we're at like 2.77 million market cap, so I'm sure there's plenty of users of Surf that will want to use this platform. So we'll see what kind of TVL that brings and what the APR looks like for Emit on that level, and we'll see if it's an Emit pair. If some of these individuals will need to get their baseline Emit in order to pair it with Surf, and what that drives to the Emit platform. So
yeah,
and we'll see how this collaboration works and what the farm opportunity looks like for the tax tokens.
Yeah, and if we see a good healthy TVL with the first pair with Emit, then we can definitely look into adding like Surf with like a core like PLS or Hex or PLSX as a second farm. We just I want to see like that the community shows up and supports your first farm, and then we can kind of go from there.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that and respect that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll be getting this out in a day or two, and you'll be seeing more news around the farming opportunity on Emit farms with the Surf token coming in the near future as well. But thanks again, guys, and until next time, see you on the beach.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Yeah.